Hello folks. Okay, let's see. This time around I just want to talk a little bit about the handling of math in Bash. So it's a little different than most of the other programming languages that we're used to dealing with. And again, it's based on this idea that Bash is really focused on sort of a command-driven interpretation. So the idea is it's expecting the user to have to enter numbers in the sense of, I want to do something this many times, or I'm expecting this many arguments. So it's usually integer data. So the only math that Bash directly supports is integer math. So we'll talk about how to deal with floating point math in a few minutes. Now, again, the idea in Bash is that by default it assumes everything is text, everything is a string. So when you want it to look at the contents of something and treat it as integers, you actually have to let it know that that's the environment, that's the way you want things interpreted. So one of the most common ways is to use this double bracket notation, where we enclose the math expression in the double round brackets. So in this example, it's going to take whatever the contents of C is and try to use that as an integer, whatever the contents of A and B are, and try and use them as integers, and actually try and evaluate this, assign the result of integer A plus integer B to integer C. You can use the double brackets and then capture the result of it by throwing a $sign in front. So if I wanted to say something like C is equal to, and then go off and evaluate this expression and give me the result, that'll work as well. So you'll see both of these used in different situations. And there is one third way of doing this, and that's with the let command. So you say let, and then give it some block of text, and it'll interpret what's in that block of text as an expression. So again, all three will have pretty much the same effect in this particular example. Most of the operators are pretty intuitive, right? The usual plus, minus, times, divide, percent for modulo, right, for taking the remainder after division, and then the double asterisk for doing something like x to the power of y, where again it assumes both are integers. So we've got some basic math we can play with, but again, that's all integer based. If you want to do floating point math, you have to invoke some program that actually does the floating point math for you and then put the results back into wherever you want it. So if you can create a text string that's got the math expression you want to evaluate and send that off to a program that can do floating point evaluation, that'll work. So one of the programs you can use is BC. So if you just send whatever text you like directly off to BC, so 3.5 times 7.4, it'll go off and evaluate that, and it does do floating point math. So here we're saying run this particular command, right? Run the BC program on this block of text and evaluate the answer and give it back to us and store it here. So again, you can do floating point math, it's just you have to think about it a little bit first and make sure that you actually pass the floating point expression off to something that can do the work for you. All right, maybe we'll just take a quick experiment with some of that, and then I'll end this one. So what I've got here is just a kind of little Mickey Mouse bash script with some basic math in it. So I'm just showing the contents of the file first, and then we'll try running it. So we've got our usual, bin bash to say that we want this interpreted in Bash. So we'll assign integer values to two variables, and then we'll use the double bracket to go off and evaluate that. So go off and compute whatever x times y is and store the result in z, and then we'll just spew it out. And then we'll do a short expression using let, just to show you that that does actually work. So if we say let, and we'll assign z equal to x to the power of 2, and again display that. And then just one quick example showing the use of BC, where we're taking an expression in text, piping it into BC, well actually using here to redirect it to BC, evaluating the result, and whatever comes back we're storing in our variable and printing that out. So we'll just give that a quick try and hopefully nothing blows up on us. And so sure enough, we see that the 27 times 13 comes out to 351. 27 squared gives us our 729. The square of 3.5 gives us our 12.25. So it does give you a kind of quick and basic way of performing integer math and floating point math through Bash. All right, I don't think there's any other surprises, so we'll leave it there.